the safest on the trail. Like, I don't think there's anything other than, like, I don't feel scared of the animals. I don't feel scared of the people. I don't feel scared of anything that the wilderness is going to throw at me. Maybe the weather. Yeah. That's probably the only thing.
How different is this trail from, like, weather in Australia?
Well, it's pretty cold. Like, coming into Mammoth Lakes was, I think the day before I arrived I had all my layers on, and it was the coldest that I'd experienced. There was a little bit of, I thought it was going to start snowing on me. It was just like a few little kind of like flakes, and then that was it. But it was a pretty cold night. I was cowboy camping, so it was a bit chilly.
So what makes an Australian girl come to America and hike the PCT not really knowing anyone, and just jumping on in Mexico and probably bumping into a lot of illegal immigrants, crossing the border, and drug runners, and heading north?
I wanted the biggest challenge I could find, and although there's many trails in Australia, I wanted to be completely out of my comfort zone, in a new place, discovering new communities, new people, and it's just a pretty different way to discover a country.
You don't seem out of your comfort zone. You seem rather comfortable.
Yeah, well, 2 months on the trail will do that to you.
So what was it like starting in Mexico, day one?
Day one was very exciting, obviously daunting. I think I was pretty nervous, but I was at the terminus all on my own. I think 19 other hikers had already left that day, so I knew I was kind of at the back of the pack, but I just started walking. I knew I wanted to do about 15 miles that day, and I was just so overwhelmed with the scenery and everything that was going on. I probably stopped about 20 times. Now I stop maybe 3 times a day, and that's it. It's just like walk.
And how many miles a day are you averaging?
Now I can do 20 comfortably. The furthest I've gone in a day is about 32, but I'm pretty exhausted by the end of that.
And how heavy is your pack?
Currently it's 45 pounds, which is about 20 kilograms.
Is that common on the PCT?
Currently it is through the Sierras, because you've got a bear canister. I've got 10 days of food to get me to South Lake Tahoe, which is it's over 180 miles away. So I need to average around 20 miles a day to get there with the food I've got.
And if you don't?
If I don't, then I'm going to be a little bit hungry and a little bit cranky, but I won't starve out here.
So let's go back to the start. You're a 30-year-old girl. Mm-hmm. Growing up in Australia, did you hike?
Not until a couple of years ago.
What happened?
A couple of years ago, I've been traveling the world for probably the last 7 years, and I finally went back to Australia to reconnect with family and friends, working in a corporate job. And after about 6 months, I was like, I need a challenge. I need to do something crazy. So I decided to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And that was the first time that I'd ever done a hike that was longer than a day. And I spent about 2 to 3 months training and kind of fell in love with this whole like hiking, being in the outdoors, being free.
How do you train high altitude in Australia?
So bad. You can't. You really can't. And that was probably one of the biggest struggles. Like I did struggle a little bit with altitude when I got right to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. I was the only person in our group that didn't actually take the sort of altitude medication, but I was pretty sick at the top, but I made it.
So you come back from Kilimanjaro, you go back to Australia, and now you're a hiker.
Yeah, I went back to Australia, then I went over to London, and after London I was travelling on my own, and I was sitting overlooking the Mediterranean Sea in Malta, and something just clicked in my head, and I thought, you know what, I wish I could just put on a backpack and wander this world. And
you're gumping it.
And at that moment, when I lived in Vancouver in between 2007 and 2010, I met a girl who had done the PCT. And when she told me about it, I certainly was not a hiker. I'd probably camped maybe once or twice in my life. And I thought, that's crazy. I couldn't even comprehend what she was telling me. That you send food to yourself ahead to post offices, and you get off the trail and you pick it up, and I'm thinking...
And you stink.
Yeah, you stink. And I was like, okay, well that sounds amazing. And something in my head was like, I want to prove that I can do that one day. But it took until last year for me to go, you know what, I'm going to do it.
And your family reacted how?
My mum was like, so who are you going with? And I was like, I'm going to do it on my own, Mum. She's like, So who are you going with?
Myself.
I think they were nervous until I included them in all of my planning. So from the beginning, I started my blog and I documented everything from purchasing gear, planning the food, planning the itinerary, and they were involved in all of this. They were helping me, you know, measure my back so I knew what size pack to get and all that sort of stuff. So they really felt like she's in control, she knows what she's doing, and they're travelers themselves. So they were like,
and how do they feel about it now, 2 months in?
I think they love following the blog. They're traveling. They're in Europe at the moment, so I don't think they're really thinking too much about it.
She could be starving on Tahoe and we don't know.
They're sending me photos of them in like the mountains in France. So we're all travelers, and I think that, yeah, they're pretty comfortable
And
with
how
it.
common is it for Australian girls to be on this trail?
Well, I believe there's another Aussie girl out here. I haven't met her. But I actually think that it will become more and more common as people learn about the trail.
Do you think the PCT is becoming more of a household name in Australia? It's growing, or people don't really know what that is?
Not a lot. Hikers know what the PCT is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, none of my friends have ever heard of it.
Yeah.
I know when I went up to all the gear stores and I said I'm going to hike the PCT, a lot of the stuff were like, oh, wow, the PCT, that's really cool. But other than that, people hadn't really heard of it. I think depending on how like widespread Cheryl Strayed's book Wild becomes, I know that it was really funny. I decided to do the trail, and the first thing that one of my friends sent me from London was that book. And originally I was like, I don't want to read, I don't want to like get any kind of ideas in my head. Like, this is my hike and I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. But I absolutely love the book, and I think in a way, like, hopefully it will inspire other people to have the confidence to just get out there on their own and do it.
So what's the one thing that you've learned since you've started?
That I can do anything. But I kind of knew that. I think that the one thing I have learned is that if your mind believes it, you will do it. So if you believe that you can do 30 miles that day, your legs will follow.
They'll just do it.
Yeah.
Do you find it more like an active meditation? Like, are you actually walking a marathon with 45 pounds on your back?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're really talking. Do you find it's more like an active meditation where actually you don't even know where you're even walking that far?
Sometimes. You know what? Sometimes I actually forget what country I'm in. I'm just so involved in actually moving forward and just viewing all of this new scenery around me like every second that sometimes I have to actually like pinch myself and remind myself, I'm on the PCT, I'm in the USA, I'm so far from home, I don't really know anyone on this trail other than people that I've met on the way.
You know Matthew Olson.
I know Matthew Olson.
Okay, final question.
And indirectly I know you.
Final question. Do deer not look like kangaroo without the tail?
Did what?
Deer, their faces. Do they not look like kangaroos' ancestors or distant cousins? Have you looked at the deer's face? They look like roos without the tail.
Maybe that's why I feel so close to deer. I love seeing deer on the trail. It's like,
they look like kangaroos.
It is weird. It is weird to have, you know, none of the Australian wildlife out here and just dealing with bears and mountain lions and, you know, a whole host of other animals that, we're not used to. So
you're the real crocodile hunter.
Thank you.
Right.
I thought,
You'll be on
good.
YouTube.